My name is Lucille Sue Jacobson. Prior to moving to Avalon, New Jersey, I was a professor at Pennsylvania State University, and I am currently teaching at the Atlantic Cape Community College. 5 years ago, we began meeting as a class at the Avalon Free Public Library to learn the craft of writing. I am the facilitator. We share our work on the library podcast, and you can always listen to us on the Avalon Free Public Library website. We hosted a local radio show called Meet the Author, where members of our group read excerpts from his or her work. We established an annual poetry contest for students at local schools to encourage their writing. We compiled a list of poems and stories about hope that we gave to a group of women cancer survivors. We incorporated as the Barrier Island Writers in 2008. We have published 2 anthologies. One is called Writings. One is called Inspirations from the Heart, and they are available at Amazon. Some members of our group have also published books individually. If you're ever in Avalon on the first and third Saturdays from 10 to 12 a.m., please come to the library, meet us, and join us if you can. We'd love to have you. We encourage new members. I'm sure all of you have made a will where you leave your material possessions. But what I want to urge you to do now is to write your memoirs. Write them so that your family, generations to come, will understand what it was like living in your era, will understand what your values were, your beliefs. This is a copy of what I'm going to be reading now, an excerpt from my memoir called The Farmhouse. We moved to a farmhouse near Oley, Pennsylvania when I was 5 years old. My mother had always dreamed about living on a farm and growing her own vegetables. She did not like living in a busy downtown street near my father's store. She was very happy when we rented a small house. The house consisted of a large kitchen and living room downstairs and 2 bedrooms upstairs. The only heat came from a coal stove in the kitchen. My mother was very proud that she never let the coal embers extinguish. The outhouse was a 1-seater, and the flies were wicked during the summertime. I had a chamber pot under my bed. During the winter, my mother would put heated, wrapped bricks in my bed because my feet would get so cold. In the morning, I would stay under my warm feather blanket as long as I could, then run madly downstairs to dress in front of the stove. I would pump the well to fill the basin so I could take a cold sponge bath. That woke me up. On Saturdays, my mother would heat some water, set up a wooden tub in the kitchen, and we would take turns experiencing a real bath. I had the honor of being first, then my mother, and then my father. Since this was in 1941, vegetable gardens were a sign of patriotism. My mother was so pleased with her effort at doing her part during World War II. The people who owned the farm were named Russell. Mrs. Russell taught my mother and me how to milk cows by hand, collect the eggs from the hen house, and hitch the horse to the wagon so we could go shopping at the farmer's market. I went to a 1-room schoolhouse with the Russell children on a horse-driven wagon. I loved it. There were no grades. We were in reading and math groups according to our ability. We would play outside until the teacher rang the bell. Class started with a Bible reading and Pledge of Allegiance. The older students always helped the younger students with work that was done on individual slates on chalk. The teacher was quiet-spoken, but all the children listened to her. She taught all of us to knit, and we would make 6-by-6-inch squares. She would sew them together to make warm blankets and give them to the soldiers in the hospital. One student was unable to learn to read. He was given other duties and felt important keeping the stove filled with wood and the fire going. The other students admired his wood carvings. The one-room schoolhouse seemed to include all of us in a warm atmosphere. The school day was short, so we all could go home to attend to chores. I was sad when gas rationing made it impossible to live so far away from my father's work. We had to move back to the city. It was not until I started second grade in an inner city street in a German neighborhood that I encountered anti-Semitism. Then I understood the war.